Everything is dying. Well, hello there. My name is Angel, and I like all things that are mysterious. And tonight we are going to get into some of my older videos. Oh, we're definitely not going to do that. So, anyways, I am not set up. And I will put the start of the video in the description. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do at all. So we left off here with the Whaley House. Or no, maybe it was, no, it was Ghosts of Union Station. That's right.
The Whaley House is an 1857 Greek-style residence.
Alright, sorry about that. My headset died. So, anyways, I did get it all set up, I think. Yes, I did, and then my Bluetooth died. That's alright. Alright, let's get into it.
California historical landmark and museum located in Old Town.
Hold on, I'm gonna go back to the very beginning. I don't do a typical intro.
The Whaley House is an 1857 Greek-style residence, a California historical landmark and museum located in Old Town, San Diego, California. It is currently maintained by
Hold on, it's not even showing it. It's looking for a game. Right. Well, I thought I hit that. Screen capture. Yeah, that one's hidden. Why is... I'm just gonna throw that away. Yes. Because it's supposed to be screen capture. I don't know why it's not working. It's gonna be something each time, isn't it? What if I put it in there new? That out. Let's just add it new. Because for some reason it wasn't working. It's still saying game. Does it show up when I...
Historic Tours of America Incorporated. Original construction started in 1857. The Whaley House was the home of Thomas Whaley and his family at various times. It has also housed Whaley's General Store, San Diego's second county courthouse, and the first commercial theater in San Diego. The house has witnessed more history than any other building in the city. The house has frequently been cited as haunted based on strange noises or sights reported by some visitors. In 2005, Life magazine called Whaley House the most haunted house in America. Shortly after the Whaley family moved in, they told the San Diego Union that they heard heavy footsteps in the house, which they believed to be the ghost of James Yankee Jim Robinson, who had earlier been hanged on the property for stealing a boat. Some visitors have reported seeing apparitions of Thomas Whaley or Anna Whaley. On the last weekend of every month, the Whaley House Museum offers a late-night ghost hunting tour. Additional tours are offered around Halloween. As I have said, the Whaley House is said to be the most haunted house in California. The U.S. Department of Commerce has listed the Whaley House as an authentic haunted house.
Wait.
The Whaley House is located in the historical Old Town area of San Diego. Built on the site of public gallows and the scene of several deaths, the Whaley House is home to several ghosts,
Hold on.
one of which...
Why is this not working? Okay, let's get rid of this. Let's try display. Maybe that'll work. I don't know why it wasn't working. Why can't I see myself anymore? Oh my god. This is a nightmare. Okay. Oh, okay. I had to put it in the back. Live overlay. Well, at least you guys can see me. I can't really move it because everything's formatted for this here. Oh my god. This has been something else. It's been something else the whole time. Alright.
before the house was even built. In 1852, a man known as Yankee Jim Robinson was caught trying to steal a boat. He was beaten and taken to jail. Jim had a trial and was to hang for his crime. Two of his possible accomplices were sentenced to prison. September 18th, 1852 was his execution date. He was barely conscious due to the beating and the lack of medical care he received. The sheriff gave the order for the executioner to pull the mule cart from underneath Jim. The executioners did not factor in Jim's height.
I can't even see any of that. Hold on.
The Whaley House is an 1857 Greek-style residence, a California historical landmark and museum located in Old Town, San Diego, California. It is currently maintained by Historic Tours of America, Incorporated. Original construction started in 1857. The Whaley House was the home of Thomas Whaley and his family at various times. It has also housed Whaley's General Store, San Diego's second county courthouse, and the first commercial theater in San Diego.
You can hear the furnace running in the background. So this must have been when I was still recording in the basement.
The house has witnessed more history than any other building in the city. The house has frequently been cited as haunted based on strange noises or sights reported by some visitors. In 2005, Life magazine called Whaley House the most haunted house in America. Shortly after the Whaley family moved in, they told the San Diego Union that they heard heavy footsteps in the house, which they believed to be the ghost of James Yankee Jim Robinson, who had earlier been hanged on the property for stealing a boat. Some visitors have reported seeing apparitions of Thomas Whaley or Anna Whaley. On the last weekend of every month, the Whaley House Museum offers a late-night ghost hunting tour. Additional tours are offered around Halloween. As I have said, the Whaley House is said to be the most haunted house in California. The U.S. Department of Commerce has listed the Whaley House as an authentic haunted house. The Whaley House is located in the historical Old Town area of San Diego. Built on the site of public gallows and the scene of several deaths, the Whaley House is home to several ghosts, one of which before the house was even built. In 1852, a man known as Yankee Jim Robinson was caught trying to steal a boat. He was beaten and taken to jail. Jim had a trial and was to hang for his crime. Two of his possible accomplices were sentenced to prison. September 18th, 1852 was his execution date. He was barely conscious due to the beating and the lack of medical care he received. The sheriff gave the order for the executioner to pull the mule cart from underneath Jim. The executioners did not factor in Jim's height when constructing the gallows. Jim's toes scraped the ground and took approximately 45 minutes for Jim to slowly strangle to death. Yankee Jim has stayed on at the house. People have heard him trudging around in his heavy boots upstairs. The gallows once stood where an archway between the music room and parlor now stands. Visitors have felt like they were being strangled while passing through the archway. In 1869, the city leased a first-floor room as a courthouse. A heavy iron chain in the room has been seen swinging by itself, and several people have felt uneasy there. In 1871, an angry mob held Anna Whaley at gunpoint on the 9th step of the stairs, while public records were removed. Thomas Whaley was out of town at the time. A chill in the air is reported there. The ghost of Thomas Whaley has been seen on the second floor landing dressed in a black coat and wide-brimmed hat. In the music room, turn off the century songs. Laughter are heard and the smell of cigar and the smell of perfume, which quickly disappear. A lamp in the music room has a couple of crystals that hang off the lamp. They have been seen moving while the others are motionless. Electric lights in the house go on and off by themselves. Inspections find nothing to explain this. The ground floor windows have been sealed to keep them from opening by themselves, setting off the alarm. There is a little ghost girl that we believe is the granddaughter of Anna Whaley. She died in the dining room after accidentally ingesting some poison. When the Whaleys lived in the house, the kitchen was actually outside just off the dining room. Thomas Whaley Jr. died at the age of 17 months in his upstairs bedroom. Cries of a baby have been reported coming from this room. The ghost of a small dog has been seen coming and going from this room. The dog has also been seen out in the yard. At night, a figure has been seen peering out of the upstairs windows when everyone has gone home for the day. Things that have been reported upstairs are curtains in many rooms moving by themselves when the windows are closed. Beds and pillows have shown the impressions of someone have lain there, even though visitors cannot gain access to the rooms. A rocking chair has been seen rocking on its own. The kitchen has been restored back to a dining room. Visitors can now enter that room. I have run into the little ghost girl there. She also hangs out in the backyard. The electric lights have been restored back to kerosene lanterns and chandeliers. The master bedroom upstairs is now a theater, and visitors can enter this area. The family dog is Dolly.
Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. What paranormal or crime-related mystery would you like to see next? I hope you all have a great day. We already watched Ghosts of Union Station. And, I gotta go. Bye.
Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today's video is on zombies. When I was on my little research trip, I honestly found all different kinds of information. I'm going to try to stick to where zombies actually came from, like the term and everything, which was from Haitian culture. Everyone knows the fictional zombies, but fewer know the facts about zombies. To many people, both in Haiti and elsewhere, zombies are very real. They are not a joke. They are something to be taken seriously.
Honestly, I should do an updated version on zombies because now we have well, they're not zombie rabbits. People have been calling them zombie rabbits. They have a virus. But also the people that do bath salts and all that other stuff. And fun fact, I used to watch The Walking Dead all the time. I don't have any of my Walking Dead stuff up. But anyways, I have a lot of Walking Dead stuff too.
Belief in magic and witchcraft is widespread throughout Haiti and the Caribbean, often in the form of religions such as voodoo and Santeria. Haitian zombies were said to be people brought back from the dead and sometimes controlled through magical means by voodoo priests, sometimes called bokors or Hugan. Sometimes the zombification was done as punishment, striking fear in those who believed that they could be abused even after death. But after the zombies were said to have been used as slave labor on farms and sugarcane plantations. In 1980, one mentally ill man even claimed to have been held captive as a zombie worker for 2 decades, though he could not lead investigators to where he had worked, and his story was never verified. For decades, Westerners considered zombies little more than fictional movie monsters, but that assumption was questioned in the 1980s when a scientist named Wade Davis claimed to have found a powder that could create zombies, thus providing a scientific basis for zombie stories. Davis didn't believe in voodoo magic, but he did believe that he had found something that could poison victims into a zombie-like state. A powerful neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin, which can be found in several animals, including pufferfish. He claimed to have infiltrated secret societies of bokors and obtained several samples of the zombie-making powder, which were later chemically analyzed. Davis wrote a book on the topic, The Serpent and the Rainbow, which was later made into a horror film. For a while, Davis was widely touted as the man who had scientifically solved the mystery of zombies. However, Davis's claims were later challenged by skeptical scientists who regarded his methods as unscientific, pointing out that the samples of the zombie powder he provided were inconsistent and that the amounts of neurotoxin contained in those samples were not high enough to create zombies. Furthermore, the dosages used by the Bokors would need to be exact, since too much of the toxin could easily kill a person. Others pointed out nobody had ever found any of the many supposed plantations filled with zombie laborers on the small island country. In a second book, Passage of Darkness, The Ethnobiology of the Haitian Zombie, Davis acknowledged problems with his theories and refuted some of the more sensational claims attributed to him. Still, he insisted the Haitian belief in zombies could be based on the admittedly rare cases where a person was poisoned by tetrodotoxin and later revived inside the coffin and taken from the grave. Furthermore, he added, there was much more to the zombie phenomenon than simply the powder. It was only one part of a deep-rooted socio-cultural belief in the power of witchcraft. In Haitian culture, voodoo priests do much more than create zombies. They are said to bring both blessings and curses through magic. Thus, the stories of the real-life Haitian zombies arose like a corpse from the grave, and eventually fell like a zombie shot in the head. Though zombies remain a myth in real life, there are more than enough of the fictional ones to satisfy the gore hounds and zombie fans for ages to come.
Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. What paranormal or crime-related mystery would you like to see next? I hope you
Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today's video is on full moon legends. Earthlings have entertained many theories about the moon throughout history. Full moons make you crazy. Since ancient times, full moons have been associated with odd or insane behavior, including sleepwalking, suicide, illegal activity, fits of violence, and of course transforming into werewolves. Indeed, the words lunacy and lunatic come from the Roman goddess of the moon, Luna, who was said to ride her silver chariot across the sky each night. For thousands of years, doctors and mental health professionals believed in a strong connection between mania and the moon. Hippocrates, considered the father of modern medicine, wrote in the 5th century BC that one who is seized with terror, fright, and madness during the night is being visited by the goddess of the moon. In 18th century England, people on trial for murder could campaign for a lighter sentence on grounds of lunacy if the crime occurred during a full moon. Meanwhile, psychiatric patients at London's Bethlehem Hospital were shackled and flogged as a preventative measure during certain lunar phases. Even today, despite studies discrediting the hypothesis, some people think full moons make everyone a little loony. Aliens inhabit the moon. In the 1820s, the Bavarian astronomer Franz von Paula Grützeson claimed to have glimpsed entire cities on the moon with his telescope. He wrote that the Lunarians who lived there had built sophisticated buildings, roads, and forts. Most of his colleagues scoffed at his assertion, but he eventually got a small lunar crater named after him. Sir William Herschel, a prominent British astronomer and composer, also thought aliens lived on the moon and made regular observations about the progress of their construction projects. In 1835, when the New York Sun published a series of fraudulent articles about the supposed existence of life on the moon, pulling off the so-called Great Moon hoax, it falsely credited Herschel's son John, a famous astronomer in his own right, with the shocking discovery. The moon controls fertility. Perhaps because the menstrual and lunar cycles are similar in length, many early civilians believed that the moon determined when women could become pregnant. This could explain why female moon deities, from the Chinese goddess Chang'e to Mami Kiya of the Incas, figure so prominently in mythologies from around the world. In the 1950s, the Czech doctor Eugene Jonas stumbled across an ancient Assyrian astrological text stating that the women are fertile during certain phases of the moon. He based his entire family planning method on his hypothesis, telling his patients they ovulated when the moon was in the same position as when they were born. According to another theory that persists to this day, full moons cause an uptick in births, flooding maternity wards with mothers-to-be in labor. Recent studies have turned up little statistical evidence for moon-induced baby booms. However, and most experts think any lunar effect on procreation is imagined. The moon is a hollow spacecraft. Several science fiction books of the early 20th century, including H.G. Wells' The First Men in the Moon, take place within a hollow moon inhabited by aliens. In 1970, two Soviet scientists took the seemingly whimsical premise a step further, proposing that the moon is actually a shell-like alien spacecraft built by extraterrestrials with superior technology and intelligence. According to astronomers, the moon, though admittedly enigmatic as far as celestial bodies go, couldn't maintain its mass and gravitational field if it lacked a dense core. We never really went to the moon. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, some people believe that the Apollo moon landings were faked by NASA, which used doctored photos, staged videos, and other ploys to dupe the public. Proponents of these hoax claims argue that technology was not advanced enough for astronauts to reach the moon and return home safely. They also point to ostensible signs of stereo trickery, including the fact that the American flag planted by the Apollo 11 crew and the lunar surface appear to flutter in the vacuum of space. In 2002, retired astronaut Buzz Aldrin, who became the second person to walk on the moon in 1969, grew so exasperated with conspiracy theorists' accusations that he punched him in the face. The space pioneer was not prosecuted. I am actually going to do a video about the moon landing being faked later on, so we'll get more in depth about that later. The Nazis had a base on the moon. After World War II, rumors circulated that German astronauts had traveled to the moon and established a top-secret facility there. Some even speculated that Adolf Hitler faked his own death, fled the planet, and lived out the rest of his days in an underground lunar hideout. Connections were also drawn between flying saucer sightings, including the famous incident near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, with the Nazis' alleged UFO development program. These theories form the basis of the science fiction novel Rocket Ship Galileo, published by Robert A. Heinlein in 1947. A rabbit dwells on the moon. Intriguingly, legends from various traditions around the world, including Buddhism, and Native American folklore, recount the tale of a rabbit that lives on the moon. This shared myth may reflect common interpretations of markings on the lunar surface, an alternate take on the fabled man in the moon. Shortly before Apollo 11 landed on the moon in 1969, Mission Control in Houston jokingly referred to the Chinese version of the story, telling the spaceship's crew among the large headlines concerning Apollo this morning, "There's one asking that you watch for a lovely girl with a big rabbit." Command Module pilot Michael Collins replied, "Okay, we'll keep a close eye out for the bunny girl."
Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more
The walls have ears. She woke up with a start. What woke her? She wasn't having a bad dream. Did she hear something? There. What is that? It sounds like knocking. Where is it coming from? It's not from the front door. It sounds too close. Wait. It's coming from inside the wall. Daniel LaPlante was born in 1970 in Townsend, Massachusetts. It is a small town that is only an hour away from Boston. It was founded in 1676 and is proud of its long history. But not all was quaint and safe in this picturesque town. Just like any other place, it had its dark side. One of those that lived and thrived in this dark space was Daniel LaPlante. For most of his early life, he suffered physical, emotional, and sexual abuse from his own father. On top of his torture at home, he was bullied at school by his classmates. He was dyslexic and a slow learner, and his appearance was undesirable. He was unclean, unkempt, and suffered from severe acne. His parents divorced when he was a young teen, but by then the damage was already done. His mother remarried and put Daniel into counseling to deal with the trauma set forth from his father. It was then Daniel was diagnosed with attention deficient hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. But the help Daniel so desperately needed was nowhere to be found. For the next year, Daniel was sexually abused by a psychiatrist. Yet another adult male in Daniel's life that took advantage of his vulnerability and mental state. In order to have a sense of control over his chaotic and traumatic life, Daniel turned to petty theft. He was only 15. Most nights he would scout around town and break into homes. He started out by stealing small valuables, things that wouldn't be missed or immediately noticed. But he soon grew bored and needed more excitement. He grew bolder and discovered that he enjoyed playing with his victims. At one house, he would steal a few items. The next house, he would simply move things around or rearrange furniture. And at others, he would steal things and then replace them with random items he brought himself. It was a game, and he won every time. But one house and one family piqued his interest to a frightening level. In 1986, the Andrews family had just lost their wife and mother, Deborah, to cancer. Frank Andrews was struggling with the loss of his wife and partner. He was suddenly a single father, and he needed to be strong for his two teenage daughters, Annie and Jessie. Annie and Jessica were just a couple of years apart. They weren't just sisters, they were best friends. Frank worked long hours as a bus driver, mostly nights. This left Annie and Jessica on their own. They were good girls and followed the rules. They were responsible and looked out for each other. Not long after moving into their new house, 15-year-old Annie met a boy. One evening while the girls were home alone doing homework, the phone rang. On the other line was a boy named Danny, and he asked to speak to Annie. Danny had gotten Annie's phone number from a mutual friend. Danny and Annie struck up a flirtatious friendship over the phone. Every night for a couple of weeks, Danny would call Annie and they would talk for hours. But they went to different schools. They had never met in person before. Danny described himself as tall and attractive. He claimed he was popular at his high school and captain of the football team. Annie was smitten, and she couldn't wait to meet him. It had been a rough couple of months dealing with the death of her mother. She hadn't smiled in so long, but now she couldn't stop. One night, Danny finally asked Annie out on a date, a real date. He wanted to take her to an ice cream shop and then the movies. The doorbell rang and Annie ran down the stairs with butterflies in her belly. But when she opened the door, she gasped with surprise. The boy at the door couldn't be Danny. This wasn't the self-described attractive athlete. The boy at the door was short and messy, and he had acne all over his face. The boy at the door was a liar. Annie was a sweet girl and had committed to a date with Danny, so she went with him to the ice cream shop. But her butterflies had completely vanished. The date was uncomfortable and awkward. The easy and flirtatious banter of their telephone conversations was nowhere to be found. At some point during the sparse conversation, the death of Annie's mother came up. While the topic was still hard, Annie really needed to confide in someone about the struggle and was hoping Danny could be a shoulder to lean on. She may not be attracted to Danny like she had hoped, but she could really use a friend. Instead of being supportive and sensitive, Danny perked up and began asking question after question about the details of Annie's mother's death. Disturbed, Annie shut down the conversation and told Danny that she needed to go home. She walked away hoping to see the last of Danny, but her wish would be ignored. Danny wasn't ready to say goodbye. A few nights after the disastrous state, Annie and Jessica were particularly missing their mother. They decided to have an impromptu seance. If they could just hear their mother's voice or feel her presence, maybe the emptiness would just go away. They went downstairs into the basement and set everything up. Candles, crystals, and pictures of their mother. They chanted and prayed, asking for their mother to appear, to speak to them, show them a sign that she was there, anything. But nothing happened. Disappointed and missing their mother more than ever, they decided to head back upstairs. But not before their father came down and caught them. He made the girls promise not to do anything that foolish again. Their mother was gone, and nothing would bring her back. A few nights later, while their father was at work, the girls were doing their homework while watching TV. All of a sudden, they heard knocking, but it wasn't from the front door or the back door. Where was it coming from? They listened and waited. Knock, knock, knock. It seemed to be coming from the house itself. It had to be their mom. The seance worked. The knocking stopped after a while, and the girls went to bed with smiles on their faces. Their mom was close by. The knocking continued for several nights. Annie and Jessica hadn't mentioned anything to their father. He didn't believe in such nonsense, and he wanted them to start moving on and dealing with their mother's death. Like clockwork, the knocking happened every night as the girls tucked themselves into bed. But one night, the knocking was different. It was more of a pounding, an incessant, disruptive pounding that wouldn't end. It happened all night until their father came home. The girls were terrified. It had been so loud in the deafening quiet of the night. That wasn't their mother. That was something else, something sinister. Did they bring back an evil spirit? Did they invite it into their home? The pounding continued for a few more nights, and it came from all over the house. In the dark of the night, the pounding and banging was terrifying and wouldn't stop. The girls finally confessed to their father about the seance. They told him about the knocking and how at first they believed it was their mother. He didn't believe them. He thought they wanted attention. He empathetically told Annie and Jessica that there was no such thing as ghosts or seances, and their mother was never coming back. Frank never heard the banging, and so he refused to believe the girls. He told them it was just the old house settling. The banging continued at all hours of the night and day, but only when Frank was at work. And now other strange things were happening. Banging on pipes, doors being slammed, lights turning on and off, items being moved around and found in odd places. Fed up, the girls went through the house to investigate. While they were in the basement, they came across a terrifying scene. Scribbled on the wall in red writing, "I'm in your room, come find me." They ran upstairs and called their father. Their father rushed home, and upon finding the message, he called the police. When the police investigated, they couldn't find anyone in the house, but they found the words on the wall were written with ketchup. Frank believed his daughters pulled a prank for attention. He scolded and grounded them. A few weeks went by with nothing but quiet. No banging, no creepy messages. The girls wondered if the evil spirit had finally left. Until one night, while watching a movie, the knocking started again. Frank was at work, and Annie and Jessica were home alone. The girls went upstairs where the knocking was coming from, only to find another message. "I'm back. Find me." They ran out of the house and to their neighbors. Frank arrived home from work to find his crying and terrified girls. Enough was enough. Frank left his girls with the neighbors and went into the house. Believing it was another prank by his daughters, Frank was startled to stumble upon a man at the top of the stairs. The man was dressed in Frank's wife's wedding dress and wearing a blonde wig. He had camouflage paint on his face, and he was wielding a hatchet. Frank ran out of the house and immediately called the police. He finally believed his daughters. The police searched all through the house but came up with nothing. They found multiple messages written on the walls throughout the house, including another one that said, "Marry me." Finally, one officer noticed a hidden door behind a bookshelf. Once open, they found not a man, but a boy, a teenage boy. It was Danny LaPlante. For months, Danny had been living inside the walls of the Andrews house. Danny was arrested and charged with armed assault, breaking and entering, and armed burglary. He was sent to a juvenile facility for 1 year. Frank Andrews and his daughters, Annie and Jessica, immediately moved out of their house. But the story of Danny LaPlante was just getting started and would only get more gruesome. In October of 1987, it was determined that Danny would be charged as an adult for the crimes against the Andrews family. He was transferred from the juvenile facility to the jail. His mother posted his bond. From there, he went to stay with his mother and stepfather. Releasing Danny LaPlante would turn into an awful mistake. Almost immediately, Danny was back to his old tricks. He was breaking into houses again. But one house in particular would prove to be the peak of Danny's criminal history. Andrew and Priscilla Gustafson were a young couple with 2 kids, and they were soon expecting their third. On December 1st, 1987, Andrew, an attorney, left for work as usual. 8-year-old Abigail hopped on the bus and headed for school. Priscilla, a 33-year-old preschool teacher, took her 5-year-old son William to run a few errands. The neighbors recall seeing Priscilla arriving home after a few hours and hustle her youngest inside. Shortly after, Abigail returned home from school. That was the last time anyone would see any of them alive. When Andrew returned home from work that evening, he found his entire family, his whole world, dead. He came upon his pregnant wife in the bedroom. Priscilla was laying in a pool of her own blood, raped and shot to death. She was naked and found with a pillow over her head. She had been shot twice in the head with a .22 caliber gun. Andrew, too terrified to find what state his children might be in, called the cops and stayed with his wife's body. Upon searching the home, police found the children, dead. The children, Abigail 8 and William 5, were drowned in separate bathtubs. William was found in an upstairs bathtub, lying face down. Abigail was found in a downstairs bathtub, and in addition to the drowning, was found with blunt force trauma to her head. She also had marks around her neck. It is believed that her neck had been compressed while being held underwater. The small town of Townsend, Massachusetts, was in complete shock. Crime happens in every town, but the brutality of these murders was beyond. Who would murder a pregnant mother and her 2 small children? Detectives had a hunch, and it pointed straight to Danny LaPlante. Danny was currently living with his mother, and his mother's house was directly behind the Gustafsons. Detectives immediately went to question Danny, but as his mother answered the door, they heard a loud crash. Danny had ran out the back of the house and was quickly making his way through the woods surrounding his mother's house. Police gave chase. After a brief search, they got a call about a hostage situation not far from where Danny made his escape. Danny broke into the home of Pamela McCalla. He held her at gunpoint and forced her into the car. They drove to the next town when Pamela was able to jump out of the car and escape safely. Police caught up to Danny. He surrendered and was subsequently arrested. He was charged with triple homicide and found guilty of all. He was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences for the murders of the Gustafson family. In 2017, Danny's attorneys filed an appeal for resentencing due to previous court cases that ruled a juvenile convicted of murder should be given an opportunity to re-engage into society. In June of 2019, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ruled that Danny LaPlante would not be eligible for parole, and he would continue to serve his life sentences. Until his death in 2014, Andrew Gustafson wore 2 wedding rings, one for his new marriage and one for his lost love, Priscilla. Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. What paranormal or crime-related mystery would you like to see next? I hope you all have a great day. February 14, 1929. Four men dressed as police officers enter gangster Bugs Moran's headquarters on North Clark Street in Chicago, line 7 of Moran's henchmen against a wall, and shoot them to death. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre, as it is now called, was the accumulation of a gang war between arch-rivals Al Capone and Bugs Moran. George Bugs Moran was a career criminal who ran the North Side Gang in Chicago during the bootlegging era of the 1920s. He fought bitterly with Scarface Al Capone for control of smuggling and trafficking operations in the Windy City. Throughout the 1920s, both survived several attempted murders. On one notorious occasion, Moran and his associates drove 6 cars past a hotel in Cicero, Illinois, where Capone and his associates were having lunch, and showered the building with more than 1,000 bullets. A $50,000 bounty on Capone's head was the final straw for the gangster. He ordered that Moran's gang be destroyed. On February 14th, a delivery of bootleg whiskey was expected at Moran's headquarters, but Moran was late and happened to see police officers entering his establishment. Moran waited outside, thinking that his gunmen inside were being arrested in a raid. However, the disguised assassins were actually killing the 7 men inside. The murdered men included Moran's best killers, Frank and Pete Goosenberg. Reportedly, Frank was still alive when real officers appeared on the scene. When asked who had shot him, the mortally wounded Goosenberg kept his code of silence, responding, "Nobody shot me." The St. Valentine's Day Massacre actually proved to be the last confrontation for both Capone and Moran. Capone was jailed in 1931, and Moran lost so many important men that he could no longer control his territory. On the 7th anniversary of the massacre, Jack McGurn, one of the Valentine's Day hitmen, was killed in a crowded bowling alley with a burst of machine gun fire. McGurn's killer remains unidentified, but was likely Moran, though he was never charged with the murder. Moran was relegated to a small-time robberies until he was sent to jail in 1946. He died in Leavenworth Federal Prison in 1957 of lung cancer. Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today's video is on the graphic novelist. Olga Kasana was panicked. She hadn't heard from her daughter Lana in 2 days, even after dozens of texts, calls, and emails. Lana Kasana was a beautiful, dark-haired Ukrainian model who had given birth to a baby girl just 3 weeks ago. Olga had come to Los Angeles from her home in Ukraine to help her daughter care for the new baby. She was babysitting when Lana suddenly stopped responding. When she couldn't get a hold of Lana, Olga asked police to perform a welfare check at the apartment Lana shared with her boyfriend, a graphic novelist and trust funder named Blake LaBelle. LaBelle was 35, was the son of a wealthy Canadian real estate developer. He lived in Los Angeles on an $18,000 a month allowance from his parents before inheriting millions after his mother's death. The apartment he shared with Lana and their baby daughter was in a nice part of West Hollywood, a quiet street just a block south of the famed Sunset Strip. Police knocked on the door to the apartment. Blake LaBelle responded from inside but refused to open the door. He insisted Kassan was fine and everything was in order. The officers gave up and left. The next day, Olga Kassan convinced police to make another attempt. Again, LaBelle refused to let them in. So finally they broke down the door. Inside they found an unbelievably gruesome scene. Blood was found throughout the apartment. Down the hall in the master bedroom they found Blake. He had barricaded the door with furniture. When they were able to gain entry into the room, police found Blake standing next to the bed. In the bed was Lana, dead and mutilated, covered with a blanket from her daughter's nursery. Blake LaBelle was taken into custody and charged with Lana's murder. The coroner's report revealed some horrific details of the grisly crime. Part of Lana's face, including her right ear, had been ripped off, and her body was covered in bruises and defensive wounds. A large portion of her scalp was traumatically absent. Her skull had been stripped down to the bone. She is believed to have lived for more than 6 hours after this. In his deposition, the medical examiner said that he had never seen anything like it. The only thing he'd ever seen that came close was 2 people ripped apart by dogs, because dogs go after the head. Lana's cause of death was listed as exannuation, the act of draining the blood from a person or animal. The average person was around 5 quarts of blood in their body. At the time of her autopsy, Lana had just about a teaspoon of blood remaining. Because a dead body will not drain that much blood, it is believed that she was also alive as her blood was drained. Pieces of Lana's flesh were found in the room as well as in the building's trash chute. In the dumpster were several garbage bags. They contained pieces of her body along with bloody towels and one of LaBelle's t-shirts. Her scalp was never found. Years before Lana's murder, Blake LaBelle had written a graphic novel called Syndrome. It was about a mad scientist who seeks to cure evil, which he believes has it isolated in the brain of a serial killer. The cover of the graphic novel depicts a baby with a portion of its skull removed. During his trial, prosecutors called the graphic novel a blueprint for his crimes. They compared parts of the book with aspects of Lana's murder. In one scene, a serial killer hangs 2 victims by their ankles and drains the blood from their bodies. Another page depicts a dead woman lying naked on a bloody mattress, an image that was chillingly similar to the crime scene. For the depraved and brutal murder of the mother of his child, it took a jury just 90 minutes to decide that Blake LaBelle was found guilty of first-degree murder, with the special circumstances of torture and mayhem. In June of 2018, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. What paranormal or crime-related mystery would you like to see next? I hope you all have a great day.
And on that note, we are actually going to call it. But I really do appreciate you guys watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day. And I will definitely